The laboratory was quiet except for the gentle hum of equipment and my fingers tapping on the keyboard. It was nearly midnight, but I couldn't stop, not when I was this close. My name is Dr. Elena Martinez, and after 3 years of research, countless failed attempts, and endless nights like this one, I was finally seeing results that could change everything. Still here? I jumped at the sound of my husband's voice. David stood in the doorway of our home lab, wearing his usual expensive suit, perfectly styled hair barely touched by the long day at the hospital where he worked as a surgeon. He looked more like he was headed to a photo shoot than coming home from a 12-hour shift. Just finishing up, I said, quickly saving my latest data. The results from today's trials are promising. I think we're close to a breakthrough with the Elena. He cut me off, his tone carrying that familiar edge of condescension. It's late. Come to bed. Whatever you're working on can wait. I bit back my frustration. David had never understood my research, never saw value in the countless hours I spent developing new treatment protocols for autoimmune diseases. To him, real medicine happened in operating rooms, not research labs. The fact that I'd chosen to focus on research instead of clinical practice was just another way I'd disappointed him. 5 more minutes, I promised, turning back to my computer. I just need to document these findings. He sighed dramatically but left me alone. I waited until his footsteps faded before opening my email to send the day's results to myself. A habit I developed after one too many computer crashes had taught me the importance of backups. That's when I saw it. An email from the National Institute of Health, marked urgent. My hands trembled as I opened it. Dear Dr. Martinez, we are pleased to inform you that your research proposal on novel treatments for autoimmune disorders has been selected for full funding consideration. The preliminary results you shared are extremely promising. I had to read it 3 times before the words sank in. This was it, the validation I'd been working towards for years. The NIH grant would mean everything. Proper funding, a real lab, the chance to expand my research beyond our converted garage. I wanted to run upstairs and tell David immediately, but something held me back. The last time I'd shared exciting news about my research, he'd dismissed it with a wave of his hand. That's nice, dear, he'd said, not even looking up from his phone. But let's talk about real medicine. You should see the surgery I performed today. Instead, I forwarded the email to my personal account and headed upstairs. I'd tell him tomorrow, I decided. Maybe over breakfast, when he was in a better mood. But the next morning, the email was gone. Not just from my work computer, but from my personal email too. Deleted from both accounts with no trace in the trash folders. I frowned at my screen, puzzled. Had I imagined it? The lack of sleep must be getting to me. I made a mental note to check my NIH application status later and headed to the kitchen. David was already there, looking fresh and polished as always. He barely glanced up from his phone as I entered. I'm thinking of presenting at the medical conference next month, he said casually. I've been working on something interesting. Oh? I poured myself a cup of coffee, trying to shake off my unease about the missing email. What kind of presentation? Just some research findings, he replied vaguely. Nothing you'd understand. Real medical breakthroughs, not just theoretical stuff. I felt my jaw tighten but forced a smile. That's great, honey. I'm sure it'll be amazing. He finally looked up, his expression softening slightly. You know, Elena, if you're bored playing around in that garage, I could probably get you a position at the hospital. Something simple, administrative maybe. At least then you'd be doing something useful. The words hit like a slap. I'm not playing, I said quietly. My research is important. Sure it is, he said, his tone making it clear he thought the opposite. He stood up, straightening his tie. I'll be late tonight. Don't wait up. As soon as he left, I went back to my computer, determined to track down that NIH email. But the more I searched, the more things I noticed were wrong. Files moved or missing. Data sets altered. Small changes that wouldn't be obvious unless you knew what to look for. My heart started racing as I dug deeper. Someone had been in my computer, systematically copying my research and deleting the originals. And there was only one other person who had access to my lab. With shaking hands, I opened a browser and searched for the upcoming medical conference David had mentioned. There it was, listed among the keynote presentations. Breakthrough Treatments in Autoimmune Disorders, presented by Dr. David Martinez. The room spun as I stared at the screen. my research, my life's work. He was going to present it as his own. I sat there for a long time, letting the betrayal wash over me. Years of dismissive comments, subtle put-downs, and barely concealed contempt suddenly shifted into sharp focus. He hadn't just been belittling my work. He'd been studying it, waiting for the right moment to steal it. Finally, I stood up, my decision made. I wouldn't confront him, not yet. Instead, I walked calmly to our bedroom and opened his laptop, the one he thought I didn't know the password to. Sure enough, there were all my files, carefully organized and relabeled with his name. I smiled as I started typing. David had no idea what he just set in motion. You see, my husband thought he knew everything about me, but there was a lot he didn't know. Like the fact that before I met him, I'd worked in digital forensics, or that I'd maintained backdoor access to every computer in our house, just in case, or that I had copies of all my research stored securely off-site, with timestamps and digital signatures proving exactly when each discovery was made. But most importantly, he didn't know that I'd been waiting for something like this. A chance to finally show him exactly who he'd been underestimating all these years. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in a long time. Sarah, it's Elena. Remember that favor you owe me? I need your help with something. The next few weeks passed in a blur of careful preparation. On the surface, nothing changed. I went about my routine as usual, working in my lab, making small talk with David when our paths crossed. If he noticed anything different about my behavior, he didn't show it. But beneath the calm exterior, I was building my case. Sarah, now a prominent intellectual property lawyer, helped me document everything. Every stolen file, every deleted email, every trace of David's systematic theft of my research. This is incredible, Sarah said one afternoon as we met in a cafe far from my usual haunts. He really thought he could just take all this and no one would notice? I stirred my coffee, watching the liquid swirl. He thought I was useless, remember? Just his silly wife playing scientist in the garage. Sarah's expression hardened. Well, he's about to learn exactly how wrong he was. The medical conference was approaching fast. David spent more and more time at the hospital, preparing his presentation. Each time he mentioned it, I had to fight back a smile. Then, 3 days before the conference, I received another email from the NIH. This time, I made sure David couldn't delete it. Dear Dr. Martinez, we are writing to follow up on our previous communication regarding your research funding. We are deeply concerned about the apparent duplication of your work being presented at the upcoming medical conference. I forwarded the email to Sarah, then sat back and waited. The next morning, David's phone started ringing at 6 a.m. I pretended to sleep as he answered it, listening to his voice grow increasingly panicked. What do you mean, intellectual property dispute? No, you don't understand. This is my research. What previous submission? I kept my eyes closed as he got dressed in a rush and hurried out the door. Only then did I allow myself a small smile. Phase 1 was complete. The day of the medical conference arrived with a buzz of anticipation. I watched from our bedroom window as David left early that morning, his presentation materials clutched tightly under his arm. He hadn't slept well. I'd heard him pacing most of the night, making frantic phone calls in hushed tones. He still had no idea I was coming to the conference. I waited until his car disappeared around the corner before getting ready. The red dress I'd chosen was a far cry from my usual lab attire, fitted, professional, and powerful. As I applied the finishing touches to my makeup, I thought about how long I'd been planning this moment. Everything's in place, Sarah texted. Are you ready? I took one last look in the mirror, on my way. The conference center was packed when I arrived, doctors and researchers from around the country filling the massive auditorium. David's presentation was scheduled as the keynote, a spot he'd no doubt pulled strings to secure. I slipped into a seat near the back, my heart pounding but my expression calm. The conference director took the stage, shuffling some papers nervously. Ladies and gentlemen, there's been a slight change to our program. I watched David's face as he sat in the front row, his back rigid with tension. He knew something was wrong, but he had no idea what was coming. Instead of our scheduled keynote, the director continued, we have a special presentation from the original researcher behind today's breakthrough findings. Please welcome Dr. Elena Martinez. The room erupted in murmurs as I stood up. David whirled around. his face draining of color as he saw me walking toward the stage. For the first time in our marriage, he looked genuinely afraid. I took my place at the podium, setting down the folder containing copies of every piece of evidence Sarah and I had gathered. "Thank you," I said into the microphone, my voice steady and clear. "Today, I'd like to talk about not just medical breakthroughs, but about integrity in research. What happened next would make headlines in the medical community for months to come." I presented my research, my real research backed by years of documented work. I showed the progression of my discoveries, the careful trials, the meticulous documentation. And then, without ever mentioning David by name, I demonstrated how my work had been stolen, altered, and nearly presented as someone else's. The evidence was irrefutable. With each slide, each data point, each time-stamped file, I watched David sink lower in his seat. The whispers in the audience grew louder. Several people were openly staring at him now, recognition dawning on their faces. Furthermore, I continued, maintaining my professional tone. "I'm pleased to announce that this research has already been submitted to and recognized by the National Institutes of Health. The full study, under my name, will be published next month in the Journal of Medical Innovation." I saw David stand abruptly and head for the exit, but security, arranged by Sarah, was already there. He wasn't going anywhere until the Board of Ethics had their say. After my presentation, the conference erupted in chaos. Reporters who'd come to cover a simple medical breakthrough found themselves with a much bigger story. Colleagues crowded around me, some offering support, others asking questions about my research itself. Through it all, I maintained my composure, answering questions with the same quiet confidence that David had dismissed for so long. Later that evening, as security escorted David out of the building, he caught my eye. "Why?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "You could have just confronted me privately. Why do this?" I stepped closer, keeping my voice low so only he could hear. "Because you needed to learn something, David. You thought I was useless, remember? Just your silly wife playing scientist. Well, now everyone knows exactly who I am, and exactly who you are." The aftermath was swift and severe. David's medical license was suspended pending investigation. The hospital launched an internal review of all his past work. Our marriage, unsurprisingly, ended in divorce. But for me, it was just the beginning. The NIA funding came through, allowing me to establish a proper research facility. My work gained recognition in the medical community, leading to collaborations with other researchers who actually respected my contributions. 1 year later, I stood in my new lab, not a converted garage, but a state-of-the-art facility with a team of dedicated researchers. My phone buzzed with a news alert. David had been formally stripped of his medical license, his reputation in tatters. I set the phone down without reading further. His story didn't matter anymore. What mattered was the work we were doing here, the lives we could change with our research. A young intern approached my desk, looking nervous. "Dr. Martinez, I wanted to ask you about your latest protocol." I smiled, remembering how it felt to be dismissed and belittled. "Pull up a chair," I said warmly. "Let's talk it through." As we discussed the research, I thought about how far I'd come. David had tried to steal my life's work, thinking I would stay quiet, stay in my place. Instead, he'd given me the push I needed to reclaim not just my research, but my power. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising so far above someone that they have to live with the knowledge of what they lost. David hadn't just lost his career and reputation. He'd lost the chance to be part of something truly groundbreaking, all because he couldn't see past his own arrogance. The lab hummed with activity around me, researchers collaborating, ideas flowing freely. This was what I'd always dreamed of, not just making breakthroughs, but creating an environment where everyone's contributions were valued. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Sarah. "Saw the news. Drinks to celebrate." I texted back quickly, "Can't tonight. We're on the verge of something big here." And we were. The preliminary results from our latest trials were showing promise in treating previously resistant autoimmune conditions. The work I'd started alone in my garage was now helping people, saving lives. That evening, as I walked through the lab preparing to head home, I passed the wall where we displayed our team's achievements. In the center was the framed cover of the Journal of Medical Innovation featuring my original research, the same research David had tried to claim as his own. Next to it hung a new edition, A letter from a patient whose life had been transformed by our treatment protocol. Thank you for not giving up, it read. Thank you for believing in your work. I touched the frame gently, remembering all the times David had called my work useless, all the times he tried to make me doubt myself. If he hadn't tried to steal my research, would I have found the strength to step out of his shadow? Would I have built all this? Sometimes the worst betrayals lead us to our greatest triumphs. David had tried to steal my work, but in doing so, he'd given me something far more valuable. The push I needed to become who I was always meant to be. As I turned off the lights and headed out, my phone lit up with another message. This one was from a name I hadn't seen in months. David. I'm sorry, it read. I know it's too late, but I need you to know, you were never useless. I was just too blind to see how extraordinary you are. I deleted the message without responding. He was right about one thing. It was too late. I didn't need his recognition anymore. I had something far better. The knowledge that I had built something meaningful, something that would outlast his betrayal and help countless people. The night air was cool as I walked to my car. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new discoveries, new opportunities to prove that success is the best revenge. But tonight, I could rest easy knowing that I had turned his betrayal into my triumph. In the end, David's attempt to steal my work hadn't destroyed me. It had set me free, and that was worth more than any revenge I could have planned.